Hello, Taos County. I am Darien Fernandez, your Taos County Democratic Party chair, and I want to thank you for tuning into this last forum that we are hosting for the primary season. Tonight, we have the candidates for Magistrate Judge, and we have technical difficulties with one of the candidates right now, and we're working to get her online. But in the meantime, we have an order of appearance on the ballot. Edwardo Martinez with us, and Sara Blankenhorn, and Charlene Tsoodle-Marcus is actually last in the ballot order, and hopefully will be on shortly. Tonight's forum will last about an hour. Each candidate will have time for opening statements and closing statements, and will be asked a series of questions. Some questions will be asked directly to the candidate. Some questions will be asked of all of the candidates, and generally, unless otherwise noted, the candidates will have an answer, and it will have 1 minute per person to answer the questions that are posed of them. We're doing this to allow people to be informed this primary season and encouraging people to still be involved, be safe, vote by mail, and learn more about the candidates for these local races. So thank you very much. At this point, we'll turn it over to Edwardo Martinez for opening statements, and you have 3 minutes for opening statements, sir.
Thank you, Darien, and thank you for thank the party for putting this forum on. I would like to say thank you to George for setting it all up, and hello, Sara, how are you?
Hi.
And hello, Taos, how are you? My name is Edwardo Martinez. I am originally from Taos. I was raised here. I went to high school here. I graduated in 1994. After high school, my family didn't really have a lot of money, so I started attending Northern New Mexico College there in Española. By the time I was 20, I started working for Taos Pueblo Police, and then I moved on to the Taos Police Department. And I worked for Taos Police Department for 5 years as patrolman. Then I went on to New Mexico State Police. I was accepted into their academy. I graduated from their academy in 2002. After completing that, I was a patrolman in Española. And then I went to criminal investigations, onto narcotics, and then I got promoted to sergeant, to lieutenant. I did complete the New Mexico FBI National Academy in 2017. During this time, I was still going to school, taking as many classes as I possibly can, and I earned 2 associate's degrees, one in police science, one in criminal justice. And then I attended University of Virginia. I got a certificate in criminal justice education there while at the FBI Academy. At that time, I was the lieutenant. Here in Taos, I was the commander. I was a commander for 6 years, both in Taos, District 7, Española, Chama, and Chimayo. I recently retired from New Mexico State Police as a lieutenant in January 1st, 2019. I would hope that my 2 decades of experience and earning $2,500 of advanced training in criminal education, criminal justice education, criminal law. I would hope that I would be more than qualified to represent you as your next magistrate judge. And thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Ms. Blankenhorn.
All right, good afternoon. I'm also going to run through the experience that I have that makes me qualified for this job. I was also born and raised in Taos, and I'm raising my little boys here. This is a wonderful town, and I'm really happy to be serving it in this way. After graduating high school here, I went on to earn a degree in philosophy. I've got a master's in philosophy and classic literature, and then I went on to law school, intent on going into public service. I started right out I went to legal aid, working in landlord-tenant law, and that's a big area for the magistrate court, and it's going to continue to be a big area as the effects of COVID filter through our society. Then I went on to capital crimes with the Office of the Public Defenders in Albuquerque, moved on to felony domestic violence, and then I worked with Dreamers, filing applications for them, as well as victims of domestic violence under the Violence Against Women's Act. After that, I went on to prosecute domestic violence and DWI with the Santa Fe District Attorney's Office, and again, that's a big area in magistrate court. We do misdemeanors, and that's a good portion of them. Then briefly back at the Albuquerque Public Defenders, and since then I've been back in Taos after the birth of my first child. I've been doing research and writing in civil litigation for several years. I've worked in water law a little bit with the acequias, and we do see water cases. It's one of the only areas that a civilian can file a criminal complaint against somebody. So that's kind of an interesting quirk of New Mexico law. And then for the past several years, I've been working with families affected by domestic violence, sexual assault, and child abuse. I've also done a smattering of guardian ad litem work, and that's where an attorney serves basically as an investigative arm of the court to represent a child's best interest in tricky custody cases. So I've gotten a lot of the legal experience required to address the areas of law that are in the magistrate court's jurisdiction. And since being appointed by the governor, I've been sitting on the bench hearing cases. I really love the work. I hope to continue doing the work, and I hope to earn your vote so that I can. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. We're still waiting for Charlene Tsoodle-Marcus to hopefully get on soon. Again, she's having technical difficulties, and she's the third candidate in this race. As soon as we have her on, we will give her time for opening statements as well and catch her up on the questions. Edwardo, first question of the night that will be posed to all candidates, 1 minute to answer. New Mexico is interesting in how we select our judges. At the district court level, judges are appointed and then they have to run for retention or get a certain amount of the vote. The magistrate level, it's all political, and the judges are consistently up for re-election. And at the magistrate level, it's not required that a person have a law degree in order to be a judge. That said, is it beneficial to have a law degree? And if so, or if not, please explain why. 1 minute.
Yes, so New Mexico State Law 35-2-1, that gives the qualifications. The qualifications for a magistrate judge is you have to be electoral, and then you have to graduate from high school, and then you have to complete the series of training that comes after you're selected or appointed. In my answer to that is, I've been working in the criminal justice system since the age of 20. I've attended hundreds of magistrate court hearings, district court, municipal court, federal court, tribal court. I've been in and out of court for 23 years. I know how the system works. I know how the law works. I've studied the law for that entire time. As with all the experience I have, I've seen how court procedure is run. I've seen how jury trials are run, how juries are selected. And I think all that experience, plus the experience I've got on the street dealing with people in general and seeing how it turns out in court and how the court is run, those 23 years of experience are I think, highly qualifies me to go into magistrate court to hear misdemeanor, traffic, some civil cases, and I think, because that's all I dealt with, and some felony cases up to a prelim.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Blankenhorn.
Well, yeah, I obviously do think that a law degree is incredibly useful. There's 3 years where you're doing nothing but reading case law, studying statutes, and figuring out the incredible intricacies that are involved in our justice system. And it's not just criminal law, it's civil law too. And I think that we often do actually overlook the civil component, but it's things like landlord-tenant law, that's a huge part of, obviously it's a huge part of people's lives. It's their shelter. And I have an intimate knowledge of UORA because of my practice in it. I've worked with both landlords and tenants. I've been on both sides of that. And just as Edwardo said, he's seen how how the court system affects people on the streets. I've also had that similar experience by watching how people's lives are affected by all of this in my years of representation of clients. Again, not just, there's law school, reading the law, studying the law, and then there's years of practice. You know, when you're in law school, they say for the first 5 years, you have no idea what you're doing. And in a lot of ways, that's very true. You spend a lot of time trying to just figure out what's going on, and the rules of evidence are incredibly intricate. I love them. Being in court's really fun because of them. But I'm really grateful for my years of training in that kind of information, because you do have to make quick decisions from the bench. And having studied, and you know, I worked for 7 years for Steve Nadelson doing research and writing. I have read, I don't know, thousands of cases, and studying it for that many years gives me a lot of comfort and a lot of background knowledge that I bring to the bench. And I think it's absolutely important. Then there's the Constitution. Constitutional law is a huge body of law, and obviously that's our life, liberty, and happiness, and that is incredibly important. I bring that to the bench, and I think that, well, Mr. Martinez has an amazing resume, an amazing career, and I respect him very much so. I think that having a law degree is invaluable.
Thank you. Ms. Blankenhorn, the next question will go to you first, followed by Edwardo. What changes do you feel are needed in the magistrate court system, and in particular in this district?
Well, right now, it's kind of actually a little tricky to speak to that, because since I've taken the bench, everything is turned upside down. So as far as changes we live in right now, it's all change. I think what I want to see happen, I just want to kind of tighten everything up from my seat. Yeah, it's really hard to tell right now because of the coronavirus. I don't have a good answer for that, but I will after I see how the dockets are running in a normal kind of world, although I think that's not going to happen anytime soon. But the most important thing I want to do is make sure that nothing falls through the crack on my end. That means making the docket run in a smooth fashion, getting things adjudicated according to the rules. There's very strict time rules in magistrate court. You got 10 days to hold a preliminary hearing if somebody's incarcerated. You got 60 days if they're not. And everything is a bit topsy-turvy because there's such a high volume. So keeping that tight and keeping it run efficiently and smoothly is really important to me. Another thing actually that has come to mind with regard to changes, I want to make sure that, well, we're protecting the constitutional rights of the defendants, the victims, the New Mexico victims as well. And on some circumstances, that means, you know, getting verification that the victims in a case have been contacted before a plea deal is accepted. Looks like my screen froze a bit. I hope I'm still here.
You are, and I'm going to turn it over to Edwardo now.
Okay.
Same question, Edwardo.
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Martinez, same and similar amount of time.
Yeah, so I'm very familiar with the magistrate court, how it runs. I was there almost every day, weekly, you know, throughout my career. So I think some changes that need to be made is I'm not saying they're bad at all, okay, the service, service to the clients or to the people who are coming in, I know they're having a bad day and they're not there because anything is going on good. But the service to them and the availability of the judges. I know judges set up certain days for certain people to come in, but a lot of times people can't make it. So I would make myself available to anybody who walked in the door, even if I'm during a trial, a motions hearing. I would during breaks take that time and see if I could assist them in any way possible. Training to the staff, I know that could be handled, that is handled to the administrative office of the courts, but I would highly encourage customer service training, additional training, and trying to keep your staff happy because I've noticed in magistrate court, and I don't know, I'm not going to make any speculation of why this happens, and because I know it's a high stress environment, but the revolving door of employees, you train them and then that you can't keep them. But if you're able to keep them and keep them happy and give them what they need to do their job, I think they'll stay and they'll give better customer service, which they do, as that I've seen, but the improvement in that. I also would like to improve several areas of such as the identity of people who have been arrested and confirming that identity. I think magistrate court has thousands and thousands of warrants that are outstanding, and who knows who some of these people are. And they're being released from jail without positively identifying them through fingerprints. And there is a state statute that covers that they have to be identified. Also, the DNA collection, I don't know if our jail does that, but if I have to put it in a court order for the fingerprints and DNA to be collected before they are released, and DNA can only be taken in felony cases, but before they're released from jail, I think that would be an improvement to the court. There are improvement for anything that you go into. You can always improve something when you get there. Once you sit and kind of judge what you're looking at. That would be my short answer for the 1 minute.
Thank you. I see that we're now joined by Ms. Charlene Tsoodle-Marcus on video. And can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, great. We can hear you too.
My excuse is I was doing this from Blue Lake. The red. Is that acceptable?
Well, that's quite good cell reception up there. So thank you for joining us. We'll give you time for your opening statements now, Ms. Marcus, and then I'll have you answer one of the questions that's already been asked of the other two candidates, and we'll kind of play catch up throughout the rest of the forum. All right. Thank you very much for joining us. So we now have on the phone and video Charlene Tsoodle-Marcus, the third candidate running for this magistrate judge position. And Ms. Marcus, you have 3 minutes for opening statements.
My name is Charlene Tsoodle-Marcus. I am running for magistrate court judge, and I have had over 30 years of employment in the criminal justice system. I have studied in the area of police, courts, corrections, and prevention, and juveniles. I have also served as a tribal judge for Taos Pueblo, and that was for about 4 years. And so now, I am running for magistrate court judge. I hope you vote for me. And my introduction is that I have seen the entire criminal justice system. I've worked it all, police all the way up to corrections. Prevention was my last area that I completed. I'm now working on a master's in criminal justice. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Marcus, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I'm sorry. If you were saying something, your audio just cut out for about 10 seconds.
Okay. I don't think I was saying anything.
Okay. All right. So I'll give you another question, and then we'll start back on the rotation. New Mexico does not require magistrate judges to have a law degree. Does this matter?
Yes, that is correct. And there are many good judges that don't have law degrees. And primarily it's based on knowledge and experience. And I feel that although it's extremely important, that I found out while I was a judge, but as Edwardo has said, you can always learn it as you go, and as long as you know your laws and you can know the process and procedure of court. Was there anything else you wanted to hear from me?
Yeah, I'll ask you another question now, and then I think we'll be pretty much all caught up and we can get into the rotation, since you were very quick with that last question. What changes do you feel are needed in the magistrate court system?
I believe that right now, as the system lies, there's not enough judges in there to work the cases. There's too much time being spent by several judges just doing nothing but magistrate court judge work. I think there's a need for more judges, and I think that they need to also probably concentrate on those cases that can be quickly resolved, and then those that take a longer time or will take more time be separated out so you have a priority list. And I think that right now Judge Ortega is very much overwhelmed and is working like too many hours. And I feel that, you know, nobody needs to be doing that. I think there should be more judges.
Okay.
That's
Thank you.
my answer.
All right, thank you. Next question for all of the candidates. Mr. Martinez will answer first. What are the qualities that a voter should look for in a magistrate judge?
Yeah, that's a good question. Thank you. I think the qualities that a candidate should have for magistrate court judge or for any judicial position is, first, you need fairness, honesty. You need to value your ethics and be as humble and as compassionate as possible when that is called for. I think
That's right.
I think the person that you're trying to be elected for, that judge position, you need to be totally fair-minded. You have to look at both sides of each story, pay attention to detail, and judge based on what is provided to you as far as evidence, witness testimony, or physical evidence. You shouldn't be biased in any way, whether it's political bias, racial, anything like that. You just be fair. I've practiced that for the last 23 years. On the street, it's the same thing with the recording policies that we have and all this other stuff, which I think is great. That is a tool that we use as police to be fair and unbiased, treat everybody with respect, with dignity, and value their livelihood when making these decisions. But then again, you have to value the victims' rights and the safety of the community just as equal as valuing their constitutional rights. I think you value them both, and be as fair as possible and try to explain your judgments, the laws, to where they understand them as non-trained people. And you're going to have your attorneys on both sides, you know. So that would be my answer for that.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Ms. Blankenhorn.
I mean, I have to agree with Edwardo. I think that the job requires a high degree of integrity, absolute honesty, objectivity. I do think that good working knowledge of the law is important, and compassion is crucial. Also, I would add some experience with where people are coming from, because you do, and a lot of times they have attorneys, a lot of times they don't, and you really are explaining to people from the bench what's happening in a complicated system with a lot of legal jargon, and at a time when they're under incredible amounts of stress. So being able to speak to people with kindness, but also understanding that you're in a position to have to hold people responsible for the actions that they've taken. So.
Okay. Ms. Tsoodle-Marcus?
Yes, the first thing that you want to look for in a courtroom as soon as you get there is, what is the balance that you need to provide within the courtroom? First of all, you're going to look and see if there are attorneys, if there are attorneys on both sides. If not, then you have somebody that may be in there on their own by themselves and have no representation. So it's going to be, you trying to find the equal balance within that courtroom so that your subject that's in front of you has fair justice. In other words, you may have to go back and forth on both sides trying to find that equality for the offender, because perhaps he is, pro tem. He doesn't have, any representation, doesn't know a whole lot about the laws as well. Just like Sarah says, you have to explain, make sure they feel comfortable, make sure they understand what's going on, and make sure they understand their rights. That's the first thing you're asking them, is to give them their rights, making them know what their rights are in the court. Also, to make them understand that you're going to create that balance that particular offender needs in there, in relation to not having an attorney or having an attorney, and trying to bring as much as fairness as you possibly can into the courtroom, making them feel comfortable, making them feel that they're being heard. And you need to listen, because that's the key.
Okay. Thank you. Now we'll start asking questions of the individual candidates. And at the very end of this forum, when we do have closing statements, candidates at that time will be able to answer any questions that they weren't asked themselves, or can use that time to make their final closing pitch to the voters. And in order to make sure that everyone gets a shot at answering a question first, I will start rotating now. So Ms. Blankenhorn, this question's for you. Do endorsements matter?
I have to say, I'm not a politician. This is obviously my first run. I am deeply honored by the newspaper's endorsement, by by Bill Whaley's endorsement. But I think, it might be helpful for people to, did I freeze again, or is?
No, you're.
Okay, it's helpful, probably helpful for people to have some information coming from others that they trust, but I'm grateful for my endorsement. The end all be all. No, my internet's not working.
Yeah, you froze. I don't know if you were done with your answer, but you froze for about 10 seconds there.
Okay, yeah, my connection's unstable, but I think that's all I have to add to that.
Okay. Ms. Tsoodle-Marcus, next question is for you. What are some of the social challenges facing this district, and what are the roles of a magistrate judge in addressing those challenges?
the social challenges that are within our county is a lot of alcoholism, there's drug trafficking, there's also opiate problems, and some of the other social problems might be single families, families without, not a full family, but, you know, a mother only, a single mother family. We also have a lot of people who are in poverty that don't have what they need to have for jail costs, and they don't have the money to pay for long terms of monitoring or any of the systems that we have out there to offer offenders. And so you're looking at a real poverty-stricken. I'm not saying that we're struggling and suffering, but I'm saying that we're not going to have the kind of money. Of course, when I was a jail administrator, there were people coming in with $2,000 in their pocket. So you know, maybe that's not really correct, but there are some people that cannot afford some of these expenses within the justice system. And we need to look at that and make sure that we don't create a, you know, unfairness with these offenders that are coming in to bring their cases to us.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Martinez, what's your position on alternative sentencing?
So there's probably a realm of alternative sentencing, and it depends case by case and what the defendant is going through. Alternative sentencing can mean, you know, do they have mental ill problems, or do they need help for those mental ill problems? Do they have a drug problem? A drug problem is somewhat different but similar. I don't know if that makes sense. Than an alcohol problem. So when you're looking at alternative sentencing, you have to look at it case by case and by an individual basis. Is this person treatable? What's best to get him back on the right track so that he can be successful in life and not go back to his previous behavior? Jail is not the right answer for everybody. Jail, I think, can be reserved for the professional career criminal. And I call them professional career criminals because that's exactly what they are. Those are repeat offenders, violent offenders, that they commit crime on daily, weekly, monthly basis. And that's what they know. And that's part of a social problem where it's come from. But I think alternative sentencing is a good thing. The only problem is here in Taos, what alternative do you have? That alternative is you go to a drug rehabilitation center. You can be, if you have mental illness, you go for an evaluation. What do? They evaluate you. You're not good to go to Las Vegas, so they walk you right out the door and say good luck. Drug rehabilitation, you're waiting months, sometimes 6 months. Where are these people? If they're not in jail, they're back out in the street, and they run into the same problems, same friends, and they continue to use. Taos has a big underground drug problem. If you drive down Paseo Norte or Paseo Sur, you're not going to see it. Do some back roads, go in the middle of the night, come hang out with me for a night. I'll show you where these areas are. But what alternative is there in Taos County? There's no drug rehabilitation center that costs money. Where's the money? There was a detox that was pretty good. The only thing is when you pick up some of these people, and the judge orders detox, they have to be sober. So what alternative is there? Probation. A lot of them do successfully complete probation. Teen court or drug court are also alternatives. But you know, the success rate on those, I know drug court, there's pretty good success rate. Teen court, pretty good success rate. Magistrate court doesn't deal with teen or juvenile acts. But we have to, as a society, as a community, where is that alternative And I know it costs money. And right now, you know, or even in the past 20 years, I've seen a very little effort to address that or within our own community. And I think that's very important, because then you can do those alternative sentencing instead of, at this point, there's jail and there's rules for that to keep them in. And then there's release and you know, and that's a hard question to answer when there's no resources or very limited resources to address those problems.
All right, thank you. This next question will go out to all three of you. I think you've all touched on aspects of this, and it has to do with the administrative functions that people don't often see in the court. I heard earlier a comment about a need for staffing, a need for more judges. I've heard about the heavy docket that the judges have to bear on this. So each one of you, starting with Ms. Tsoodle-Marcus, what is your experience guiding or leading large teams, and what specifically can we expect to see you accomplish in the position of a magistrate judge?
I think her mic is off.
Okay.
These that would improve the justice system. For one, I think that the team that you're talking about could probably happen in many different ways. You just asked about alternatives, and there are many alternatives. You have to look for them. You have to, there are alternatives in other states too. They'll even pay for those alternatives. If you find them in the internet or wherever you look, you have to have time to find them. As a judge, nobody's going to run to you and say, here are the alternatives for you to use. You need to have them handy. You need to have done your research, and you need to look for those alternatives. And if you're working in a judge system that doesn't have supplies or the right amount of people working in there, then you find a way to provide that service. Perhaps there are other court systems that would like to participate with you, that would like to do, you want to look at memorandums of agreement with other court judges that will open up some of their resources that they might have to offer. And you too, probably offering what limited resources that you might have as well, and thereby develop these different committees that might be able to sit and kind of do focus groups to decide on what kind of alternatives and what kind of directions you need to implement within your court system. I would like to be a part of that. I would like to be a part of not only working these cases on a daily basis with a large court docket, but I also want to be a part of committees that are going to improve the justice system and the court system and find ways to alleviate some of these tasks that are ongoing. I know there's a good information system that the court has. I know that there's a lot of more assistance for the magistrate court than there was for a tribal court. I know that in tribal court, we didn't have much at all. So I had to be pretty creative about looking for alternatives and trying to find a way around providing alternatives for sentencing. And when you've looked at the problems that the offender is having, you pretty much at the end of your court case, you already know the kinds of problems that this person is having. You already know the kinds of assistance that this offender needs. So you're going to have to, your mind will be busy trying to put together what you feel would assist this offender. How can you keep him with his family and his and supporting his children? Why take him away from a good job if he has a good job? Why are you wanting to throw stumbling blocks in him? Why not try to help him to provide for his family and help him to find ways to get treatment? There are a lot of ways to look at. There are many tribal communities in the northern New Mexico area. None of them have been asked to coordinate or to participate with them to find alternatives. And I think that, it's high time now that we do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Blankenhorn, since Mr. Martinez and Ms. Tsoodle-Marcus have both had an opportunity to discuss their views on alternative sentencing, why don't you go ahead and do the same?
Yeah, well, alternative sentencing is great, but I think Mr. Edwardo already pointed it out that we're limited by the resources in the community, and I will use whatever tools are available to me. I am using the tools that are available to me now, but realistically speaking, we can't go in and we can't change the court administration because magistrates are not in charge of that. We can't dictate what kind of resources are available to the community in terms of rehabilitation. We do have a lot of agencies in the community that are working hard to try and provide various relief to our people here, but it's one thing to make to talk about all the things that you're going to do when you're in here, and then realistically speaking, you get to hear the cases in front of you. You get to make the best decision you can under the circumstances and use the resources available to you, given our community's limited resources and the reality of our economic situation here. But I am 100% in support of alternative sentencing where appropriate. I don't want to see people getting a pass where it's not appropriate. And there's a tendency, because there's such a heavy docket, to, there's a pressure to do that to relieve the pressure. But we have to be very careful about it and make good choices.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Martinez, what's the pay of a magistrate judge in Taos County?
I believe the pay, starting pay is, I think between 90 and 95,000 a year. I think that's what it went up to last time I checked.
Okay. And Ms. Tsoodle-Marcus, what can you break down by percentage the type of cases that are going to be on the docket, or that are typically
looking at the dockets in Taos County and how much we've been reading what's going on in the community? I think drug trafficking and drug use is really a large percent. I would say at least about 30%. 30% also alcohol-related crimes, and then I would say that 30% was probably your other kinds of misdemeanor crimes that come into the county. So that's 90. So, and then I would say 10% for probably traffic.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Blankenhorn, is it important for a judge to be active in, and is it appropriate for a judge to be active in lobbying the legislature for additional funding and additional judicial positions, and is there really time to do so?
No, I don't see this as a political position at all, and I'd have to, maybe the chief judge I'd have to review the code of ethics, but you know, this is, you really do, the job is pretty clear. You have to manage the cases in front of you, and entering into the political arena, I don't see that as our job at all. No.
Okay.
But I could offer a little help as to the pay and the question about the percentage of the dockets.
Yeah. We'll have time to address those questions at the end during closing statements. So next question goes to all three of you. Mr. Martinez will answer first. Under what circumstances should a judge recuse him or herself or themselves?
Sure. So under the state statute, there's 3 circumstances where a judge should recuse himself. One is if he is related to you in the first degree or first cousin. The other one is going to be if you have an interest in the case. I would assume, and I would keep this assumption. Self-interest would be maybe including relationships, and then if you were a counsel or represented either party, that's under the state statute. I think if you have any concern with who's going to appear in front of you, and you may have had some other interest or personal relation, it would be best to recuse yourself from that case, just to be on the safe side, and they can assign that case to a different judge if necessary. I've seen where both judges recuse themselves, and they had to bring the outside judge from Rio Arriba or Los Alamos or the First Judicial District. So that doesn't happen quite that often, but it does happen, and I think there's state statute that has prepared for those situations.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Tsoodle-Marcus?
Yes, those are, Eduardo is correct in that. There's one other situation when you're asked to recuse. When the offender themselves feel that for some reason or another, there's a subject matter related to you that maybe you don't remember, or it's something that he feels that you might know about the case that would make it unfair. If he's asking you to recuse yourself, I've been asked to recuse sometimes, and I have willfully done it because if anything to make that person feel comfortable, if they don't feel that I can provide that justice, I would like for him to get that justice from someone else that he feels comfortable with. And so I would recuse myself after hearing what he has to say, and also if I already know that I'm related. And of course, don't forget, us Native Americans, we're related to everybody in the Pueblo. So, and it goes all the way to 5th and 6th. So you really need to look at the comfort of that particular offender, what he's asking you, because he's the one that may request it.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Blankenhorn?
Well, yeah, as Mr. Martinez pointed out, this is governed by statute, and it is already because of representation I've had of clients and or their opponents. Another wrinkle is that the Code of Ethics requires you not only to avoid unethical behavior, but to avoid the appearance of improprieties. So if you're even close, if there's even any question about whether or not you can be objective, regardless of whether or not you, as the judge, think you can be, you just get out.
Okay, thank you. So next question for all three of you. Right. We all have our own political and religious beliefs, and sometimes we may feel like those beliefs are in conflict with the law. And I think an example is the county clerk in Kentucky who was refusing to honor same-sex marriages and was taken to court for it, right? As an example. But I mean, how, as a judge, can you put your personal, political, and religious beliefs aside and just look at the law? Mr. Martinez.
Yes, that's a good question.
Yes.
So at the age of 18, all the way until January 1st, 2020, I never involved myself in any political event, nothing political. It went against our MNAC rules in state police, and as a police officer, where the law is the law. This book right here should govern you in all aspects. If you're a judge, a law enforcement officer, an attorney representing somebody, this right here is pretty much your Bible when you're at work and on the or on that bench. So I've never done anything political other than right now. Religious, that's a personal thing. And as far as being on the bench and taking any of that into consideration, you do what the book says. And you don't go above it or you don't go beyond it. Judges do have discretion. You can use that wisely. And I don't have any political, religious, racial bias against anybody. All I see is a human being, a person that is in front of me, and that's all I look at. And I've done that for the last 23 years. So that's my quick answer to that question.
Thank you. Ms. Tsoodle-Marcus.
I also am capable of putting all of my bias, if I have any. That's one of the things you want to ask yourself. You should have already done a self-evaluation of yourself. You should already know what your biases and your prejudices and all those things are, so you can know that these might come show their ugly head in front of you. So you need to really already have done a self-evaluation of yourself and tell yourself or talk to yourself as to where you stand on some of these issues. When you're in the courtroom, none of those things can come in the way of justice. You need to be as clear as you possibly can. You need to give the fairest kind of justice to the person in front of you. You owe that to him. If for some reason you feel that you cannot do it, then you also have your chief judge that you can talk to, and other people that may be able to help you understand what you're looking at. But as far as being biased in the courtroom or prejudiced, you cannot. You have to give your purest, unbiased, unprejudicial opinion that you have. And you must work out those issues outside of the courtroom, not inside the courtroom. And but be as it's their court case, and you are just merely there to look at the facts of what happened, what's going on, and all the evidence that is being brought into court, and looking at everything, listening to all the testimony, and being as unbiased and unprejudiced as you possibly can. That is your function as a court judge. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Blankenhorn.
Well, I think it's partly, your careful introspection. Partly you got to just follow the law. When there is judicial discretion allowed, you need to be careful. And another part that I found useful since taking the bench is practice. Years of representing clients whose issues are not my own has given me a lot of practice in looking objectively at a case. You look and you evaluate the case based on the strength of the legal positions, and I think that's very useful. So yeah, close scrutiny of your own personal situation, follow the law, and keep the objectivity going.
Okay. Thank you. This next question will go to Mr. Martinez. Many have served on magistrate jury duty. Many who have served are on magistrate jury duty are very reluctant to do so again because there is no consideration for revealing jurors' personal info, life history, etc. to the defendant. Full names of jurors are also used in the courtroom, even though they've been given numbers, and anyone can find an address that way in this day and age. How would you address this? And this is a question from an audience member.
Yes, so if you're summoned by the district court to jury duty, it should be where only the district court clerk who controls that has your information, your contact information. I would, as a judge sitting on the bench, I would do everything I can to try to protect the identity and personal information of every juror that has been summoned in to appear before a selection panel. I think that's very important, but information leaks out all the time on the internet. Some information you can get off nmcourts.com. I think they've kind of fixed that to where you just get the date of birth and nothing else. But I would do everything I can to protect the identities of the jurors. Now, once they're seated in a panel, then again, you use whatever method you can, but there's always going to be leaks. And plus, Taos is a small community, and you hear this a lot, everybody knows everybody. So you see the person sitting next to you on a jury panel, and the defendant lives down the road. But those things should be coming up during voir dire when they're being asked by the prosecution and the defense if they have any conflicts or anything that would obstruct them from serving on that jury panel. So I would do everything I can to help preserve the identity of everybody that has been summoned in for the jury selection.
Thank you. Ms. Tsoodle-Marcus. This one comes from another audience member, and he is asking, as a realtor in our community, he would like to know what your experience is with the New Mexico Uniform Owner-Resident Relations Act, given that magistrate court has jurisdiction, and he anticipates hearing a number of civil cases related to this statute.
I would have to research that particular law to see what the conflicts are there. One of the things that you need to look at too with all these contracts and these agreements that have been made is to make sure that they have been put together with the proper people, and that they have the endorsements of those people that need to sign off on those contracts and those agreements. One of the things that I find in realty is that there are many different sections of it, and it could be a lot of research that one has to do in looking at rental kinds of issues, people owning property. I know that within the tribes, the war chief is in charge of all the property, so we didn't deal with any of that, but I'm sure that within the state there are different kinds of laws related to that type of issue. So you would have to know that law related to property and realty.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Blankenhorn, judicial discretion has been discussed a couple of times tonight by all of you. What does that mean to the person who is standing in front of you in your courtroom?
That means that in matters of, release from jail, conditions of release, that they're going to have to rely on your decision. That means that they have to rely on your knowledge, your fairness, your compassion and sense of the law to make the right decision. And, so far right now in the magistrate court, a good portion of the judicial discretion that is exercised is in determining conditions of release. And that's every day. You wake up, you see the jail log, you study the case, you look at the background checks of the individual who's been arrested, you look at where they're coming from, you look at what's happening, and you make those decisions based on that.
Okay. Thank you. So we're gonna do one more very quick 2 or 3 word answer question that each of you will answer, and then we'll move into closing statements, and then we'll call it a night. All right, and Mr. Martinez will go first. So the prior judge in this seat, the Honorable Judge Shannon, is well known for dressing up as Uncle Sam every 4th of July and picking up trash in the Arroyo Seco parade. If you had to choose a costume to dress up in every year on what day of the year, on a certain day of the year, what's the costume and what's the day of the year that you're dressing up, Mr. Martinez?
So I probably Halloween maybe. I'm already scared, so I wouldn't have to do much to dress up for Halloween, and maybe just get up in the morning. That's my answer.
Ms. Blankenhorn.
How can I follow that up? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. That's
Do we need to come back to you, Ms. Blankenhorn?
I like stuff. I can't.
Ms. Tsoodle-Marcus.
I would like to dress up for St. Patrick's Day because my father was part Irish and that was his favorite day. And I would like to be in green that day and celebrate because our great grandma was Irish and she married into the Kiowa tribe and her husband became a war chief or a chief within the tribe. So we got that Irish blood coming down, and every so often, every generation it shows up. It showed up in my older sister. She was very light and red haired, and I loved it. It was wonderful, a wonderful difference within our family that I really liked, and it's now showing in my son. And I love that, and I love dressing up anyway. I mean, any costume. I used to make our costumes together, my son and me, and we used to go trick-or-treating all night long. And I think I wore him out going around all night. And he was always wanting to go home. And so I love dressing up. That's fun.
All right. Well, thank you. Ms. Blankenhorn, are you sure you still don't have an answer?
I mean, I dress up today. I got a robe. No, I don't.
Okay.
I wasn't prepared for that.
All right. So closing statements, each one of you will have a minute to make your case to the voters. And again, you can use this minute to talk about yourself or touch up on anything else that was discussed during the conversation tonight. and we'll go in order of ballot appearance. Mr. Martinez, you first.
Yes, thank you. So I would like to thank you, Darien and George, for putting this on, as well as the Democratic Party and everybody who's listening out there, and we'll see this on YouTube later. You know, a few things I wanted to just clear up when you asked about what other things may be good for magistrate court to improve the function of that. I also introduced a safe surrender program for outstanding warrants on traffic citations. I think that's a good idea. I think it probably have to be approved through the Supreme Court or through the Office of Administrative Courts. But I think that's a pretty good idea. It's been done in the past and it's worked out well. Another thing I'd like to clear up is, you know, I deeply respect both Sara and Charlene. I think they're very professional, well-trained, and well-qualified to serve as magistrate judges. And I just want to clear up something, add something real quick, that, you know, if you go to the Supreme Court or Office of Administrative Courts data website, you can pull up these sheets, and it shows you how many criminal, traffic, and civil cases are done throughout each year in all magistrate courts, which are the 46 courts statewide. And in 2017, just really quick, there was 56% were traffic, 34% were criminal, and then 10% was civil cases. In 2018, again, civil cases were only 10% out of the 158,485 cases filed. You can find this stuff right on the internet. I looked it up today because I knew there was a issue with how many cases are heard that are civil in magistrate, and it's usually, and also in 2019, also just 10% out of the 160,000, about 160,000 cases. You know, I would love to represent you as your next magistrate judge. I think I've demonstrated that I am loyal to my community, loyal to the people of Taos, to the citizens of Taos. I've had opportunities to move on and in my career, and I've chose to stay here and work with the people that I love and the people I grew up with and the families. Like, I know how important it is to us. We're just a small speck of sand in this whole world, but it's our speck of sand. And I humbly ask for your vote, and thank everybody for their support that they've shown me. And you choose the best candidate, and I hope you choose me. And thank you.
All right. Thank you. Ms. Blankenhorn, similar time.
All right, so I guess I'd also like to take the opportunity to respond to a couple of things, and most directly regarding the breakdown of cases in magistrate court. Yeah, 56% are traffic. That all happens basically on one day. I've had 10 traffic trials this afternoon and, I don't know, 15 arraignments this morning. What you got to understand about those numbers is that they're dealt with more rapidly. So the actual cases that you address, yes, certainly more traffic. A lot of those go away because they're not even prosecuted. So yeah, it's 56%, but it doesn't take up 56% of your time. With regard to the breakdown of civil law only being 10%, even if it is 10%, that's people's contracts, that's people's homes that you're talking about. So it's a potentially insignificant, could seemingly insignificant percentage, but for the people who are standing before you, it's their life and it's important, and you need to know the law to make a good decision based on it. And then regarding the criminal cases, domestic violence, and I have a lot of experience in both of those and feel very comfortable areas of the law. And that's my pitch for me regarding those breakdowns. I'd also like to make a couple comments about the magistrate court changes. We don't get to choose the conditions of release. The rules are pretty specific, and what you get to do is severely limited, and even more so in light of the recent rule changes. Magistrates don't get to, I wonder, my internet might have gone out again. We don't get to hold people without bond. There's a whole lot of restrictions. So it would be great to do DNA identity, but that's not on the table. We do social security number verifications and other things like that to ensure that the people that are before us are the people charged with the crime. I've got years of experience. I've worked with people all throughout this community. This is my home. I loved what Edwardo said about this being our little speck of sand, and it is. And I want to do my part to make it as good as possible. And I hope that you let me continue to do this work because, you know, while being a lawyer is an honor, it's an honor because you're carrying people's serious problems at dark points in their life. The moral ambiguity that's inherent in representing other people's issues is something that I'm leaving behind, and I really enjoy as a judge serving the community, serving justice, and serving the law. And I hope you allow me to continue to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Tsoodle-Marcus.
Yes, I want to thank everybody that was responsible for setting up this forum. I really enjoyed the other ones, the other forums that went on. They were very professional, very nice, and I really enjoyed all of them. I also wanted to talk about the candidates that are here tonight. I think any one of them will do well as being the judge in Taos County. They're strong, and I think they have good backgrounds, and I really respect all the two that are here, and I respect the other ones that have started out with us. It was a long journey, and I think that, you know, any one of us is going to be a good choice for you. So I want to ask you humbly for your vote. I have, my strengths are going to be that I've been a judge before. I also know tribal, federal, and state, and county, and all of that. I've worked with all of those cases. I know how to work with offenders. I also feel that, as I said before, you had asked about endorsements. My thought about endorsements is this. I think it's wonderful to get endorsements. I didn't get one, but I will say one thing, that when you do get an endorsement, just talk about the person that you want to endorse. Don't put down other people or other candidates. And I didn't like some of the put downs that were made on Edwardo. I wanted to speak to that because I think it's unfair, and he's quite a person, and I think these two candidates are very strong, and I think any one of us is going to do a good job. So I congratulate each one, and I humbly also ask for your vote. And I also wanted to ask one question of them, and that's that they consider setting tribal jurisdiction because it's important. You live right next to a tribal community. You also live next to 8 northern pueblos as well. And you need to know the makings of tribal jurisdiction because they are split up into state, federal, and tribal. And there's also a very traditional court system within our tribe. And there's also a regularly modern court system. You need to know about both of those. And you need to start looking at making kinds of maybe some, you can't do it yourself, but encourage other judges to do memos of agreement with the tribes, because you need to start, don't do any social distancing from the tribes. They need to have your support and your consideration because they are part of your community. And I think it's very important for you to know that. And I want to thank everyone for being here. And I'm sorry I was a little late. Bye.
It's okay. I want to thank all of you as well tonight for being part of this forum, even though we had technical difficulties at the beginning, and for being respectful of each other and respectful of the audience members' time. this is a bittersweet forum. It's the last one that we're doing. We still have a couple of other races that we just weren't able to schedule forums for, but we will be interviewing those candidates separately and putting those interviews online. So people will still have a chance to get to know those candidates and where they stand on the issues. Taos County, you have another difficult choice ahead of you. Hopefully tonight you can come out of this with a better understanding of Mr. Martinez and Ms. Blankenhorn and Ms. Tsoodle-Marcus and their desire for serving the community and the experience that they would each bring to the job. This has been a very challenging time for all of us, just across the country, in our state, locally, and we ask that you be safe, take care of one another, and I think that the respect that is shown in these races that we've seen in these forums just really shows how strong we are as a community, that we can run against each other in a race but still have nice things to say and still want to come together at the end of the day because we all care about this place that we call home. So we have one event that I want to briefly plug. It's on Thursday. We have our state party chair, Mark Elliston, who will be joined by Representative Ben Ray Lujan and Representative Deb Holland, who will be talking about the importance of getting out and voting safely on Election Day. And the best way to vote safely on Election Day is to actually avoid the crowd altogether and get your mail-in ballot. I have mine. I'm going to fill it out in the next couple of days, drop it in the mail. It's safe, it's secure, and it's convenient. So vote by mail, wear a mask. Let's take care of each other, Taos. Thank you all. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye, Sarah. Bye, Charlene.